you. Thank you. So overall, first, to begin with, I would talk, very short, quickly about the word well-being, because well-being is a very trending term which is coming into use currently, and not just, only for teachers, but we have been talking about it in terms for the students as well as the parents, as well as the people who are working in the corporate sector. So there's a lot of emphasis which is being given to well-being. Now well-being is something which is at the current stage, or I would say in 21st century, it has become the right of every individual, and it has at the same time become a responsibility of every organization to take care of the staff members or their clients or the students, if it is a school, that they have to ensure that well-being is taken care of. Now, coming to teacher well-being, why we focus so much on teacher well-being, because many of us still do not know that what exactly well-being looks like, especially when we talk about the educators who are in school. Their well-being is something which directly is playing a role on the student as well. When I walk in the morning with a very grumpy face, what happens to my students at that time, right? So my students are also basically reciprocating the feelings that which I am passing on to them. So there is a very fine connection between the students and the teachers, which plays a major role on the student learning as well, right? So now who all are responsible for it, when we talk about it? So whether it is the teacher who's not taking care of her, whether it is the organization, whether it is the parent body, whether it is the management. So what happens, who exactly is playing what kind of role in teacher well-being? Okay. So, of course, well-being, when we also talk about this to different members of the society, or in that case, even if you pick up the staff members of any one particular organization, they all will be having a different definition or a variation of their own, that what is exactly well-being for me, or what is well-being for you. So everybody will have a different aspect to it, but there are some natural components or something which is unique to every individual on planet earth and individual who is an educator. So those are to do with their physical well-being, their emotional well-being, their spiritual aspects, and the mental as well, because they are all very, very closely interconnected to each other. Nothing can stand out on its own. So I will just quote you an example over here, that when we see a teacher who's somewhat disturbed, we do notice that they are not able to focus that much in the classroom, or for that particular day they feel a little lost. That happens with us also, because we are all humans, and we go through the same feelings. So what happens is that it definitely shows across in their work as well. Now, this is connected to their emotions also. If they themselves are in pain, it is to do with their physical well-being also. Or if it is to do with a family member, then you have, their mental state, their emotions, everything at stake, because they are physically present with us here in the school, but then their mind, their heart, and their soul is still at home, because they are thinking about that, and they are worried about their family members. It's not always that they can open up at the place where they are working and they can talk about it. Some things are still very personal. No matter how far we take it ahead, it still stays personal. And that is the time I think that we as an organization or a fellow colleague need to be very empathizing towards the other person. Empathy is also something which is not just said but to be practiced. Now what happens is that every workplace, every culture, we have certain work relationships which work across different dynamics. So there might be some people who gel around or are very pally with the others, but not with the higher management or someone in the higher hierarchy, I would say. But I think that's completely fine as far as they are able to confine in someone and talk about it, because the end result is the more you talk, you also get some solutions, and you also feel a little more lighter, no matter what it is like. So it is ideally a shared responsibility. At the same time, I think it is also very important to sensitize the family members, that because well-being is something to do with everybody, not just the educator who is at job, but for everybody. So what happens that this sensitizing can also be taken up. So for example, the school can definitely, have more family gatherings where you get to know the families a little bit. You also arrange for certain sessions for them, where you can always talk about well-being and how it connects or stays connected from school to home. It's a complete thread which cannot be cut in between. So moving ahead, like why is well-being important for teachers? So when I started talking about it, I did say that there's a very thin connection between a teacher and a student. So I'll share another example here that once in the kindergarten classes, a long time back in my career span, I observed that the students that they were very, very, low on their energy. Usually we see that the younger students are very enthusiastic about everything. They are running around the classroom or they are, playing with something. It's a very hustle and bustle class. So I also noticed that it was not just the children who were on low energy, but it was also their class teacher. The teacher was also low on energy. Now, of course, I couldn't approach at that time and find out what is the reason. But when it happened constantly on the second day, and when I could confront the teacher and ask her that if she needs any help, what is bothering? Is it to do with the class only, or is it something else? That's the time we got to know that she was struggling with a little bit with her mental health, her emotions, and that was what was passed on to the children. So basically for schools, we also need to ensure that the teachers who are coming to us, we have a thorough background understanding, or I would say scrutiny done for their mental health as well, because there's nothing wrong in feeling low as such. We all have those days where we are feeling very high, some days where we are very low, and it's a very natural human reaction to an action, I would say. And that should give you the freedom to be you. Nowhere to categorize an educator that okay fine, they are the ones who are struggling. Usually no, it's just that some people need help at beginning, some towards the end, but yes, there is help which is needed for them, right? Now similarly, if we talk about physical health also, what happens is that when you are in the classroom, and now with the trending changes in education, we as educators trying to put in a lot more of hands-on activities, a lot more of things which you can explore by playing games or doing different activities. There it is very important that the physical health of the educator is definitely taken care of, because otherwise if I'm not very healthy and physically not fit, maybe I cannot take part in certain activities. And what we forget here is that that particular set of student, when they are so attached to a teacher and they know that my so and so subject teacher is going to take me for a field trip, or we are going to play a game, so when they don't see that teacher participating or somebody else replacing for that moment, that comes as a little bit of, I would say, a shock to the children, more in the primary level, because they see their teacher as they're another mom, because that's how they'll end up calling the teachers at school sometimes. So I think that it is important that we balance it out completely. Now, what has an impact on teacher well-being? Right. So now, off lately, we have been talking about a lot of things, that comes from the organization. That the changes, the trends which are coming up in education are one of the reasons, because there is a lot of demand to, enhance your skills, to enhance the way you're dealing with your subject in the classroom, to bring in IT. And I think that recently, when the pandemic phase hit all of us, we all had this pressure, to be very IT skilled or trained, no matter whether we used it earlier or we did not use it earlier. But I think it just, it was a compulsion ki आपको आता है या नहीं आता है, you just have to begin using your computer, the emails, the Zoom link, everything came into the picture at that time. So I think that was somewhere where there was a connection between the change and the demand, which was needed at that moment. And it was global concern. So this issue is right now, going on. I do want to say it as an issue. The reason being that there is no, a perfect solution to it yet. Everybody is trying hard on their own end, that how do we ensure that the organization's educators are feeling at peace or are taken care of completely. There are chances, that sometimes when there's a change in the management, or a sudden change in job, if a teacher is moving, it takes some time for them to accommodate, which is again a very natural, transitional phase. But if that phase or that feeling continues for longer, then I think there is a problem, and we do need to check that what is the background of it, why is it happening, why is it so. There are instances, that the relationships at times, which are our working relationships at our workplace, may also actually have a lot of impact on the way we feel as an individual. Sometimes, you feel that your colleague who was always sharing with you, always asking you for suggestions and guidance, has suddenly moved on. They are with somebody else. So that itself, some people may not be able to handle it that well, and it sort of creates a pressure on them that what happened, why. So I think instead of keeping all these feelings bottled up, better is to talk. And because talking is one thing which will always come give you some outcome of it, right? Talking has never harmed anybody. So always talking out about a concern is the best way to go ahead with, because sometimes these working relationships do not have any scope of your immediate line manager or the management to intervene, because those are your understanding, mutual understanding between two people or a group of people, and they work it out when tasks are given to them. Yes, sometimes it also happens that there is a work pressure that happens, maybe during exams or paper checking. That does happen, but still that is a phase which has to pass on. If any team member or number of team members are still in that phase, then I think the organization really needs to go back and check that what is the policy that needs to be changed, or what is to be added up, because it's not promoting a healthy work culture. Now here I would also like to add that well-being, how sometimes well-being can be taken advantage of. This word is such that anything and everything is compromised for this word. But there are sometimes chances or team members who might not understand completely what teacher well-being is, and maybe knowingly or unknowingly an advantage is taken out of it, that this compromises of teacher well-being. So I think that that's why it's really very important that whatever policies an organization has or a school has for the teachers, they must document it and keep it, that what are the kind of suggestions or the kind of help that we give to the teachers when they are facing a certain difficulty or certain kind of challenge, right? So that is important for us to do, and we must ensure that the protocols are followed up and extend help as much as possible. Not everything can go official. Sometimes we as teacher leaders or educating leaders, we also need to connect with our team members outside of the school boundaries. That gives a lot more scope for us to understand that individual. But of course you need to ensure that they are comfortable with it. Not everybody likes the management or the line managers encroaching the personal space of a teacher, right? But then, yes, there are always some or the other ways to stay connected to them. That doesn't mean that we also spy on them. That's not the right thing. I think teacher well-being is a very, very fine term, and it should be kept to that instead of twisting and turning its definition every time. I would just want to play a short video for you all. This is just giving a gist about how we can support the teachers. Here it goes.
Ma'am, I'm not able to hear any sound here again, some squeaky noise, that's all.
Okay, you're not able to hear it. No problem. What I'll do is, ma'am, that I'll just, go talk about it as the video is just being played, or I can just give a gist of it, right?
No issues.
Yeah. So basically, this video is talking, about the kind of job roles that the teachers have and how it varies from systems to systems. Now, when we talk about, our own country, there are different rules and regulations for the teachers who are working in a private sector and for the ones who are possibly in the government sector. Also, there's a lot of difference between the boards, the CBSE board, the ICSE board, the IGCSE, and the IB board. So, what happens is that at times the requirements that these boards have, or the kind of work that adds on to the teachers, can also shoot up the level of stress that the teachers may have board wise. So that is also one of the things which may affect it. Now, when we talk about the systems which our country has and the other country might have, will also fluctuate a lot, right? But in there again, when we compare all of these things, what we zero down or we again narrow down to is that what can we do, to contribute to the system, to make it more streamlined, to make it more smooth for the teachers, so that they don't feel the heat or they do not feel burnout every now and then. Getting the feel of tiredness or burned out once or twice motivates you. It makes you feel that, oh yes, I have so much on my plate and I have to complete all of these things. But that cannot be the case every time, right? So no matter where we are, the systems need to be in place for every individual. Now, how can the teachers, promote their own well-being amongst their own group? So they can also come up with strategies. Now, a lot of IB schools, I quote IB schools because I've been working with IB schools since long. They have these policies where, the teachers make their, certain personal, the agreements of the group, the essential agreements, and they have certain rules and regulations framed by themselves, and that is being made by their own group, right? So they keep several factors in mind that, what are the things that they are going to do when they are feeling stressed or a colleague is feeling stressed out. So the teachers themselves are coming up with a lot of solutions over here. These are the two links which I have used for putting all the data, whatever I have used here, all the information together. These are the references which I have taken up. Also, as I said, that there is no end to this topic, because this is an ongoing challenge or a hassle which we all as educators are facing, and we are trying to come up with as many solutions as possible and as feasible also. With this, I would end the presentation here. Thank you so much for it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Hetal. So what I understood with your talk,
Uh-huh.
I'm not an educator, but after hearing you, what I understood is empathy plays an important role in teachers' well-being.
Yes.
It's not only teachers, I think in general society too, we need to be empathetic towards each other, be it, for educators and the teachers and the students and the parents and the society need to understand the teachers' um, plight, right?
Yes.
So here are some questions lined up. You have covered pretty much everything, but again, since you said that it's not a short topic, it's a very vast topic.
Yes.
The questions might be repetitive, but like you can elaborate more on this. So the first question goes like this, ma'am. In general, among schools in India, do you think the well-being of teachers is satisfactory?
No. No, why I say this is because I have, from my 14 years of experience and dealing with educators across the world, okay, and from India also, looking at my educator circle and group, I every day hear, that what actually went wrong. I'm still waiting to hear what went right. What were the steps taken by the school to make things right? So I would say it's a clear cut no as of now. Of course, this is my perspective.
Yes, ma'am. The second question goes like this. What can schools do to support and promote teacher well-being?
I think that the policy should be a little more friendly. I know that this is a part of human resource department, the HR department of the school, where some suggestions are given by the management, but not always. It depends case to case. So I would suggest that, there should be some teachers, like we have the parent teacher association to understand the parents part. The same way we must have at least, one or two teachers, educators, experienced one, involved when these policies are framed. Not the ones where you are talking about the financial aspects, but at least the ones where you are talking about that, how the staff can be taken care of. Now, in certain schools we have small committees which are being made, which are called as the staff development committee. This is apart from the HR department. So these committees are responsible to, have sessions for the teachers and their families. It's not just to do with outings and picnics or dinners or lunch, but they also have sessions like, yoga sessions. Sometimes they call counselors to assess the teachers, to speak to them, where you are giving them a lot more chances to open up. And that is the panel where you also sometimes freely open up about major challenges, or if they're facing any bias situation, so they open up in these forums.
Okay. This question is about the mental health. In India, mental health is a neglected topic. Do you think teachers' well-being is also neglected?
Yes, it is. It is neglected. It has just come up into light, I would say, from a couple of years now, that we are focusing on well-being overall and teachers' well-being. Because now is the time when we, after this pandemic phase, we started understanding what the teachers are dealing with. Right. So they are carrying a very heavy load on themselves. That is to ensure that the students' learning is never stopped and the quality learning is delivered. Right, when you are trying to do that with a lot more other things which involves your plannings also, the class setup also, a lot more small things which an outsider might not be able to see, but the teachers are dealing with it. And I think that there should be a proper policy made country wise, your state wise, for the teachers, so that they feel that yes, they are taken care of. Their problems there are very much practical, and there has to be some streamlined process to ensure that they are highlighted and the teachers are feeling a part of the system. That needs to be done.
Okay. So what are some signs to look out for when teachers are under stress, ma'am?
Yes. So for some, because when you have team members who are older with you in the system, what happens is that you actually get to know the team members so well that a slight change in their behavior, or the way they teach in the classroom, these are small signs to look out for. Now, when you have new team members joining in, what happens is that you take a complete background of them, and then you observe them. There is no harm in approaching a team member and asking them that certain activity of that particular teacher was something which made you highlight that, and you want to understand that what is the reason behind it. Is it usually the way they carry on, or is there something which is triggering that move? Right, so behavioral changes are one of the things. The way they are, sometimes the eating habits, this I would personally point out, is because I have dealt with a lot of my team members in all these years, whose anything which was upsetting them was seen in their eating habits as well here at school, like they didn't want it to. Right, so these are two things which I would look out for. The third thing is to have when you are talking about them confining in their colleagues or their team members. So at times, there are certain team members, when they are feeling that okay, my so and so colleague is not keeping well, or is really upset about something, they do come and share with us. So I think that we need to be on a very softer note dealing with these things, and we must be open to listen to what the others are coming and saying, because not every time it is about passing on negative comments. Sometimes teachers do come and talk about their team members when they are feeling bothered. So I think we must have more and more of such people who are looking out for other team members well-being, having your eyes and ears basically everywhere for this particular stuff.
Right, ma'am. So what would be an ideal school for good well-being of teachers?
I think an ideal school would be which who is actually keeping in mind the teachers, the working time first of all, and of course when and also having an open communication channel, because when you have an open communication channel, there's a lot of scope to work things out. Because what happens is that there are sometimes messages which are passed on hierarchy wise, and when it comes, by the time it reaches to the person, the message is completely deviated. So I think that when it is coming to individual feedback, that is the time when the managers, the line managers, should also try to build up a connection with everyone, because not all five fingers are the same. That's the same with our team members as well. So as a school, constantly taking feedback from the teachers and passing on the same feedback to the management is also necessary, because they are the ones ideally who are going to come up with various strategies, because not everything is just spoken and done. At times there are budgetary requirements which are needed. At times there are things that need to be changed in the system, and that's where the feedback given to the management comes into consideration.
Okay. So why did you select this topic, ma'am? What interested to you this idea of teacher well-being?
Yes. So I selected the reason behind it is that I come from a very, very, healthy teaching background. Wherever I have worked till now, including the head of the school to my immediate line managers to my team members were very, very supportive, not just to me, but to everybody. But a couple of years back, I when I went in for one of the jobs, there I faced mental issues myself, because I don't want to use the term, but I felt that I was tortured in that school. Being on a leadership position, but still I felt that I was tortured and I was forced to torture the other team members as well. Now, this here, I don't mean torture as such, but using various strategies, That's where I felt that, I come with so much of excitement to school for working. But then what happens to me and my team members, and I'm forced to, deal in the same way with my team members. So why is it so where everything was working out smoothly? Of course, after a couple of years' time, I did leave from there and I came back to a healthy environment. So, that middle phase has given me a lot of time to reflect on that what are the healthy practices that schools must follow. Even if you are not an ideal one, but still you should at least be one of the healthiest environment for everyone.
Okay. Related to your experience, what can teachers do to take care of their own well-being in these kind of situations, ma'am?
Not much. They frame their own small groups. I landed to be a part of one such group. So we collectively decided to revolt as well, which was wrong, right? But then what happened was, at the same time, we also reflected that in a small group we could achieve a lot more. So if there was a challenge coming up, instead of dealing it all alone, we dealt with it together. We raised our voice where it was needed practically, because being educators, we also have to be very mindful of our actions or the words that we are using, how we are dealing, because the children are there to look at us, and when they look at us doing something wrong, they are going to always carry it forward.
So do you think the non-stop communication via emails and WhatsApp is another case of stress among teachers?
There is. This is for sure the case, and also certain schools have taken up a stand that they would not be sending work-related emails, or even if they send, the teachers not expected to reply. Like I know that several schools have the policy of responding back to the colleague or to the head of the school or to the parents within 24 hours time. So what happens is that you are not under pressure that, okay, if I've got the mail late night asking for something, then I need to reply at that time. There are also sometimes very urgent cases where you cannot avoid it, So I think that is a time when instead of sending tagged messages to people on group, we just drop them a message, or that if we can quickly connect on a call because this is urgent. Right now, that definition of urgent really needs to be in the mind of the person who's doing it, because urgent means a situation where life and death is the matter at that time. So that's the case.
Right, ma'am. There is some interesting question, ma'am. We like to organize a workshop in our school on this topic. Will you be able to participate as a guest speaker? Somebody
Yeah,
wants.
I'll do that. Yeah, why not? I'll be more than happy to do that.
Right. So, ma'am, a couple of questions more since we are running out of time. I'll just ask you one last question. Tell us about yourself. What made you take up career in education?
Yeah, so actually, I used to hate being a teacher. My family history is all of teachers and professors, and that's why I felt that why to carry the legacy ahead, let's do something different. So before these 14 years, while I was still studying, I had took up a job in aviation industry, and that was not something that I was looking forward to, and I was guiding somebody else to take up a teaching job. But while guiding them, I realized that I was the one who was actually enjoying it more. So I just jumped into it.
Okay, ma'am. So that's all. We end the question answer round here. School Journal of Education and schoolreformer.com. Thank you for the talk and for patiently answering all the questions, ma'am. We also thank the audience for participating in the event. We'll end the meeting now. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.